Maybe hold it. Oh, both of
Namibia, in the southwestern corner of Africa, is a relatively young nation. Gaining independence in the early 90s, today it is a republic known for calm political waters and a small population of only around 2.4 million inhabitants. It is famous for its vast, dramatic landscapes, friendly people, and its incredible conservation success stories. The first country to incorporate the protection of its environment into its constitution, Namibia's citizen-centric approach is epitomized by its flagship community-based natural resource management program, which has in many respects set the standard for conservation in southern Africa. This ensures that communities are at the forefront of protecting their natural heritage. Today, Namibia is home to the last population of free-roaming black rhinoceros outside of protected areas. In the northwestern Kunene and Irongo regions, harsh terrain and inhospitable environments are the setting for a remarkable story of the local recovery of a species that globally is on the brink of extinction.
Without wildlife, it's like you are a poor man. You have nothing.
We have to preserve what we have today for the next generation. You know, this is what is keeping me going.
Wildlife crime has far-reaching consequences and is more treacherous than it seems at the surface. It's operated by well-organized global syndicates. To combat wildlife crime involves a complex and multifaceted approach. To deploy such a plan requires a network of teams working together. Partnerships have long been the strength of Namibian conservation. This story is no different. It is about collaboration underpinned by a people-first approach and how this has resulted in effective conservation of the world's last truly free-roaming population of black rhinos. In the history of this corner of the world, there is a time referred to by some as the yellow tape era, for the yellow tape placed around crime scenes, a symbol of a time when groups were working in isolation. This was not a successful period in the fight against poaching. Today, 3 NGO partners working on the front line and in close partnership with the conservancies are Integrated Rural Development and Nature Conservation, Namibia Nature Foundation, and Save the Rhino Trust. They remember the early days of isolation and now appreciate the value of good conversation driving smarter conservation.
It was during the colonial era. The government not really trusting NGOs. The NGOs now also working with communities that the previous government regarded as poachers. It's like you make the jackal a shepherd of your goats. I mean, imagine that.
There was really no good meaning. I mean, you do your own thing, he doing his own thing, but you try to conserve the same one rhino that's standing there. I mean, you spend lots of money, he spend lots of money, I'm spending lots of money, instead of putting $3 together and do the same thing at once. So it was a waste of time, funding, and also dividing people.
And in the end, there's 3 big losers. But the biggest by far are the communities and conservation, and of course the organizations ourselves. We're weaker separated.
Here in this harsh desert landscape, where protection efforts are often slowed down by terrain, a success in the fight against rhino poaching can be found. Behind this success story is a vast network of passionate people and their combined efforts. But why? What happened in this secluded and desolate part of the world that would drive a need that would later rally government, civil society, and communities alike to take up this cause? We meet the head of WWF Namibia, Chris Weaver, in the country's capital. Chris has been actively involved in conservation in Namibia for almost 3 decades.
The time of crisis probably was in 2013 and 14. We had 26 rhino poached in 1 year out there. The Ministry of Environment and Tourism, were not used to dealing with it. The police weren't used to dealing with it. The communities and the conservancies weren't used to dealing with it. The chaos around the response at that time was basically fragmented, and it was not conducive to a coordinated effort to counter wildlife crime.
Rhino conservation is a tough job. Monitoring them over inhospitable terrain in harsh conditions day in and day out requires extraordinary effort and courage. Underpinning the efforts is the hard work and unwavering perseverance of the conservation heroes at the front line. On a rhino tracking expedition in the Palembach concession, which was once the epicenter of the crisis, Ims, a senior tracker with SRT, explains the day-to-day duties of being the boots on the ground.
A typical day of mine would start probably at 4:30. That would be my wake-up call and head off for a rhino drive. Whichever time we find a rhino, this is what we use first. So it's having drawings, blank drawings of a rhino, the 2 ears and the face. Apart from that, we'd be filling in the GPS coordinates, which is very helpful for the MET as well. And by the end of the month, we send these books back to our base, and the base carries it through to MET. So we've got vehicle teams, we've got on-the-ground teams, yep. And so yes, we are fighting a battle here, but we are ready.
Wildlife crime is a threat to Namibia's biodiversity, economy and people. Communities are the ones most critical in this fight and also the ones most negatively impacted. Namibia has over 20% of its land dedicated to community conservation. This has brought tourism and development, critical benefits to often desolate rural societies. Communities who live with wildlife in their backyards are the eyes and ears in every corner, no matter how remote. They are the custodians of our natural heritage.
You have these communities that have always been living together with these animals. The rhino rangers, the community game guards, are members of the community. They are the ones that go out in the field where they are monitoring wildlife, recording incidences that are happening within the conservancy and reporting it back.
The community sees that it's needed to have these guys out in the field. A lot of things change just because of the conservancy. You can see that pipe there. It's the conservancy who put that water into the village. So wherever if you travel around and you meet local community people and you are wearing this t-shirt, this and this, yeah, that's our program.
Since the dark days of 2014 and 2015, the situation has changed dramatically. Better coordination amongst NGOs and government, improved enforcement capacity, a renewed focus on working with the communities, and most importantly, the boots on the ground. As a result, by the start of 2020, the northwest of Namibia had enjoyed over 2.5 years without any rhino poaching. However, as the world shut down under the weight of a global pandemic, opportunistic criminals took advantage of the confusing times and 2 rhino cows were killed near Puros. It happened in the light of a full moon, which makes it easier for poachers. This is one of the reasons why it's called the blood moon. Despite this setback, the fight continues.
I think the vision for the future is learning from this process and building on it.
We have all this success story in Namibia just because we changed the way we work. We talk more, we plan together, if there is an issue, we confront it together, and that has closed all the gaps.
We hope the future of the rhino is certain. From our side, we have a belief that it is certain. As long as we are on the boots here on the field, I think we'll make it big time. In this Kunene, we are fighting a war, which we believe we will fight it till the end, until it's the last power we have in our bones.
The well-being of people is so intricately tied to nature. And in the Kunene region, in the northwest of Namibia, lies an example of how we can win the battle against wildlife crime if we work together.
Hello and welcome to Life Clinic, your weekly dose of health and wellness from the BBC.
However, there is a school of thought that feels that organic food is too overpriced, yet they seem easier to grow and rare. But what do experts make of this?
You are paying for quality, you are paying for safety, you are paying for your health, because the other alternative is consuming conventional foods that contain contaminants.
For those who choose to shave, let's say using clippers or a razor, use those that are specifically made for the genital area. So they're very different from the ones for the face or for the rest of the body, because in terms of shape and the angle, it sort of helps it so that you don't cut yourself in the process.
Should I be concerned about getting a prostate check?
We as healthcare providers are first and foremost concerned about the prostate because it's one of the contributors of a silent disease. Silent disease meaning prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is one of the main killers, not only locally, but globally. So
everybody experiences anxiety. You have a job interview, you have a presentation you're going to make, so everybody goes through some kind of anxiety. What differentiates this normal day-to-day anxiety to now this is a disorder is that you experience these symptoms for a long time.
Namibia, in the southwestern corner of Africa, is home to the celebrated Communal Conservancy Program, where rights to natural resources were given to the people whose lives depend on these resources. Namibia has over 20% of its land dedicated to community conservation, which means that today 1 in 4 rural Namibians are choosing to live with and protect wildlife. This has proven critical in the fight against wildlife crime. So often overlooked, community involvement in conservation in Namibia is a cornerstone to the country's success. The world's last free-roaming population of black rhino can be found in the northwestern Erongo and Kunene regions of Namibia. Behind this conservation success story is the visionary approach by the government of Namibia, coupled with the efficient coordinated response from non-governmental organizations. Ultimately, though, this approach only works because of the indigenous peoples and local communities who are the eyes and ears in every corner and the first line of defense against wildlife crime.
Wildlife means a lot to the rural communities. Wildlife is currently, as it stands, is our rural economic assets. Conservation and wildlife in communities has changed the livelihood of the rural communities. Our government has really thought this nicely through to set value on wildlife, and also for every ordinary community members to see wildlife as their personal assets. And I think that is from this angle that people are taking a very strong point and approach really to conserve wildlife. So everybody is trying their level best, from the government to the traditional authority and the local community that are directly engaged with wildlife and are benefiting from wildlife.
Chief Petrus Okongo speaks to the importance of community involvement in conservation.
Oye nera no nadani aunsa kawasa ma kaisa itradide community ke mut ni ha community ke ngau a ngara no sta turo se ngai ni tuan tinisia tuan aroma belangre kaisa si tam ni se seradin hupti en konstu aroma a belangre sa so nes aida ke sida kaisa ngisa ngabadi dani
Communities are very important because they are the ones that live in the area, they know the area, and are the ones that are sort of responsible for monitoring these animals, because the rhino rangers are coming from the communities. They are part of the communities. The rhino rangers, the community game guards, are members of the community, and they are employed by the community. They are very important because they are the ones that go out in the field and do this sort of dangerous job where they are monitoring wildlife, recording incidences that are happening within the conservancy and reporting it back to the conservancy, whereby the conservancy actually takes the feedback to the Ministry of Environment to take some important decisions. Communities have a growing sense of pride when it comes to rhino in the area and rhino conservation. This all came about whereby the youth started getting involved with creating awareness around rhino, and they did a lot of events like cleaning up campaigns, and the community started asking, like, what are you doing? You know, it's someone you know who's actually doing this, and that built more sort of pride, and people are starting to ask more sort of like of the right questions about the rhino, what is happening with the rhino, how can they be part of it. Rhino needs a new story in the sense that, I mean, we're growing tired of talking about poaching and poaching. And we have seen over the past couple of years the poaching in the northwest has gone down. And this is all because of the communities. We need to work together with the communities to start telling this new story.
We are talking about over 300,000 Namibians that are involved in conservation.
I'm Martin Nabaset.
I'm Japet.
My name is Terry.
I'm working for Safe Rhino Trust.
It's like my Andy Felterberg.
I started in 1998.
I'm now working for 40 years.
22 years.
I'm here out in the bush. We are protecting the rhinos every day. And I will die for rhino.
Community common goal being conservation. This has seen wildlife recoveries and environmental restoration. Furthermore, people have also benefited tremendously. There are many direct links to the improvement of rural lives through conservation. Development, empowerment and economic opportunities are all derived from Namibia's communal conservancy program.
The local people here, they do have a full understanding of wildlife here. A lot of things change just because of the conservancy. You can see that pipe there. It's the conservancy who put that water into the village. So the majority of people knows the value of wildlife. They know the value. If we conserve our wildlife, who will benefit from it? So even the majority of people that we also arrested, none of them are from these areas. All of them they are outsiders.
So what these countries, the big country and the market is doing to our rural communities, that is stealing from somebody else's properties. That is denying those communities the right to benefit from what is rightfully theirs. It's a way of impoverishing our rural communities. How can you come to somebody's kraal and just take animals without their permissions? I can tell you there are communities that live primarily from wildlife and tourism. Imagine if there is no wildlife anymore, how would they survive? Mind me, if you go into this rural area, you will see schools being built with profits from conservation. You will see water points being put up from income from conservation. You will see soup kitchens for elderly people where they are waiting while they're waiting for their pensions, been prepared from the profit of conservation. Kids has been sent to school through conservation money. It's not much, but this is the beginning of many more things to come.
Rhino Rangers program is growing. The community sees that it's needed to have these guys out in the field. Wherever if you travel around and you meet local community people and you are wearing this t-shirt, this again, say, that's our program. That's our program, that's our local. And everybody support Rhino Ranger program. Because the peoples are employed by the communities and they work for the communities. They report back to the community. Whenever they see the rangers on the back of the vehicle, then they know our guys are going to protect our animals. So we will try our best to continue doing what we are doing. So poachers, they are quite very clever people.
Sometimes you think that you manage to get them down. While you are relaxing, they are planning. They might come back, they might try to knock us down, but we will never give up.
As the old adage goes, it takes a village. Truer words were never spoken, especially as it pertains to the conservation culture found in Namibia. Here, every village and every person living with wildlife has a connection with and true understanding of the importance of this balance and working together. Communities in northwestern Namibia are the front line, the heart and soul, and the champions of the world's last free rhinos.